Who the hell sleeps in front of the paparazzi, the media? How do you sleep in front of the media? The cameras are rolling and he lays out.
He's dead sound asleep. I wish I could have that secret because, you know, that's a talent. I wish I could do that. Sleep with the cameras.
The guy can fall asleep instantly with the press watching. Who the hell wants to sleep with these people watching? And he's out cold. You see the dribble coming down the side of his chin.
It is indisputable that Donald Trump is in cognitive decline. The man's brain is mush. And considering how much the mainstream media talked about Joe Biden's age during the end of his presidency, it is embarrassing that they refuse to cover this story. But of course, we will, because it's so easy to cover. Donald Trump gives us example after example that he is in cognitive decline every single day. And he gave us two during his trip, in the beginning of his trip to Saudi Arabia, when he not only fell asleep, but also had to be guided, essentially having his hand held by his handlers because he was so confused walking around a room. We're going to get into it all. But before we do, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video, and if you haven't already, and you enjoy our channel, to hit that subscribe button. It goes a long way, and it really does mean a lot to me. Now, this won't be the only shocking moment that comes out of Donald Trump's trip to Saudi Arabia. Of course, this all started with the announcement of Donald Trump's most corrupt deal yet. So, before we get into his cognitive decline, I want to start with Rachel Maddow talking about his corruption.
If Democrats in Congress don't shame him out of accepting it, that jet from Qatar will become the latest and most flight-worthy in a series of very, 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 very valuable presents that President Trump and his family and his businesses have received from Qatar since he first became president. For example, in Qatar, there's the new plan for a Trump International Golf Club and Trump Villas. The plan for that was just signed last month, thanks to the understanding and generosity of the Qatari government. You may also remember the bailout that Trump's son-in-law Jared Kushner's company got in the first Trump term for their boondoggle office tower in Manhattan. That was from a company tied to Qatar. Qatari officials denied any involvement in the deal at the time. But there was no denying the capital B billions poured into Jared Kushner's brand new investment firm that he set up just after he left the White House after Trump's first term. Billions of dollars to Jared from not only the government of Qatar, but also the United Arab Emirates and Saudi Arabia. Speaking of Saudi Arabia, Trump's company is also developing a new $500 million Saudi Trump Tower in the city of Jeddah, thanks to the kindness and generosity of the Saudi government. In United Arab Emirates, the Trump organization is now planning another $1 billion tower, thanks again to the kindness and generosity of the Emirati government. That new Emirati Trump Tower project was announced last month at a crypto conference in Dubai, where it was also announced that a fund backed by the United Arab Emirates would use Trump's new cryptocurrency to finance a major crypto deal, which would mean they will be putting, directly into the Trump family's pockets, many, many, many millions of dollars. But these are just the presents for Trump that we know about. I mean, it's worth remembering from the end of his first term that Trump left office without ever providing the legally required list of gifts that he and other White House officials received from foreign governments while he was president. When Trump got back into the White House to start his second term, he started day one with eliminating the federal ban on receiving gifts from lobbyists. Literally on his first day back in office, he made time to end the ban on federal officials receiving gifts from lobbyists. Day one. Because everybody knows it's gifts for public officials from lobbyists that will make America great again. So yes, Donald Trump or his library will be getting a luxury plane from a foreign country, and that is a big deal. But it is also like item number Z on a long list of gold-plated gifts Trump and his family have accepted from this country already and from other countries in the region. In Washington, a handful of Democrats in the Senate are now asking their colleagues to go on record in support of the idea that, quote, no one should use public service for personal gain through foreign gifts. You would think that that would not be a hard thing to get people to agree on. They're trying to force a vote on it. What do you think? Any chance? You want to bet $1 billion golden tower on it or something? Maybe $1 billion?
Again, let's just talk about the mainstream media coverage of two very different presidencies. How much did we hear about Hunter Biden? Hunter Biden. And now Donald Trump's kids are setting up their crypto scheme. They're announcing new golf courses around the world and countries that are giving Donald Trump $400 million bribes that he's striking deals with, and no one wants to say a word. This is insanity, and this is just being treated like, well, it's a gift. We're going to figure out the law. You know, maybe it's legal, maybe it's not. It's a clear violation of the Constitution. Even Republicans are saying so. This is insanity that the mainstream media refuses to do their job in covering this Trump presidency. It is embarrassing. Like I said, especially considering his cognitive decline that they won't cover, and it started with a little nap from Donald Trump right here.
Read a lot of the material now out of Saudi Arabia, and Mohammed bin Salman is saying we need a resolution on a Palestinian state. And I don't necessarily recall several years ago, pre-October 7th, as that being a demand that he had necessarily stated publicly. Do you think his position has changed, or do you think the way he has expressed himself?
Do you see at the end of the clip how he kind of just jerks his head up? He's just gets SERP. He's falling asleep in the middle of this meeting. If Joe Biden had done this, it would be the only clip you would ever see for weeks, months, years on end. It would be the defining moment for the mainstream media, for his presidency. That is all we would see. And the same goes for this clip right here.
Signing on behalf of the United States, the Honorable Donald J. Trump, President of the United States of America.
He doesn't even know where he is in the room. He's signing a deal, and he has a desk to his right next to him. And instead of getting up and going there, he walks across the room just kind of all confused and out of it. Doesn't really know what's going on. And they had to direct him like he's a child, like he needs, like one of those vests that you like have a leash on. Is that what we need to do to the President of the United States? Really? Like we need someone holding his hand, tugging him along so we can get to the right place and put his feet down on the, on the blue line they taped on the ground. And we saw this yesterday too. Donald Trump is consistently giving speeches announcing executive actions. He did this on Liberation Day again. We saw it yesterday where he gives the speech and then just walks out of the room and someone has to drag him back to say, no. This speech that you just gave, 30 minutes of you talking about an executive order you're going to sign, you do then have to sign the executive order that's right there. He is out of it. He's out of it. And we can't even just imagine how damaging this is because we now have an economy based around the whims of Donald Trump, the price controls that Stephen Miller previously called communism. Yeah? Now, Donald Trump has instituted those, the tariffs that at any point he can decide, or going up, going down, going away, coming back. Yet that's all at the whims of a man in cognitive decline. And that's why it's not just Democrats calling them out, but Republicans like Senator Rand Paul on MSNBC as well.
You know, I think tariffs are bad. They're bad for trade. They're bad for prosperity. So anytime we can make them lower, that's better. And I've said all along, while I'm not for the tariffs, if the negotiation somehow made tariff barriers lower, I'll compliment the president. But you have to realize with China, he's getting to 30%, but he was at 145%. It's a smaller number, but it still will be a 30% tariff on everything from China. And so people who buy things from China, Americans who buy things from China, will be less rich. They will lose wealth, and that wealth will be taken from them in the goal of making trade fair, which some people want. But there is a cost to this, and it will be a cost to the consumer.
Why do you think the White House, the administration, has been so reticent to admit that to the American people? You and I both know it. Every small business, big business leader is aware of that.
It used to be universally known. I mean, this went on. We debated this in our universities after World War II. And by the time, the 1970s and 80s came, it was pretty much decided whether you were right or left, Republican or Democrat, trade was acknowledged as a good thing, and the world did get richer. Post-World War II, we all got richer, and we still continue to get richer over time. But now it's begun to be debated, and that knowledge is lost. But it's a pretty fundamental knowledge, and that's why when I debate with my colleagues, I present to them the facts. They say, well, the middle class has been hollowed out. But if you look at household income over a 70-year period, it's just not true. The middle class has thinned slightly, but it's because they moved into the upper class. Humanprogress.org does the statistics on this, and it's amazing what wealth has been created since 1820. But really, even since when I got married in 1990, it used to be a third of the world was living in absolute and utter poverty, $2 or less a day, and now it's less than 10%. So that's an extraordinary feat. 100,000 people rise up out of poverty every day around the world, and we should be glorifying that. Instead, we attack each other about.
Well, the president argued that tariffs were going to pay for the tax cuts and they were going to reshore tens of thousands of manufacturing jobs. You and I could agree that was never going to happen. But does that argument that he makes, does all that just go out the window now?
Well, see, we still haven't really felt the pain of the tariffs. So if you survey people and you ask them, is it unfair that China does this or India does this? 75% of the people say, yeah, it's unfair and we should do something to make trade fair. But then if you tell them, if your television set costs $600, are you willing to pay $900 to teach those people a lesson and to make things fair? Most people aren't willing to pay a tax. They're not willing to pay extra for their goods. And also, if you pay $900 for a TV that was costing you $300, that's $300 you had to get your hair done, to have someone mow your grass, to have people help you, and you don't. So you're less wealthy in the pursuit of fairness. But people on the right used to not accept these fairness arguments. They used to say the marketplace decided these. As long as things were voluntary, the marketplace sorted things out. But now you have people on the right, I think, really adopting arguments of the left on fairness. And to get to fairness, though, there always is some sort of penalty that someone must pay. And in regard to tariffs, it's a penalty they will pay with higher prices.
I feel like these are signs that hell is frozen over. Rand Paul is on MSNBC calling out Donald Trump for his economic policy. What time are we living in? That should be evidence enough that something is very wrong, which it is. And we're going to continue to call it out on this show every single day. And if you want to support that, as always, you can hit that subscribe button, leave a like on this video, and if you stuck around to the end, you can drop a blue heart in the comments. And until next time, I'll see you soon.